Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more podcast for the Athletic School. Today, our guest speaker is Matt Johnson. He played professional indoor soccer. He spent 9 seasons at Marygrove College, and now he's at Lourdes University. He was also the coach for Toledo Villa in the USL 2. So thanks so much, Coach, for being here.
Absolutely, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And we also have Gustavo here. I don't know how's your knowledge about soccer, but yeah, thanks for being here as well, Gustavo.
Yeah, my knowledge about soccer is just like a fan. I'm from Brazil, so it's pretty big over there, but thanks for introducing me. I'm pretty sure that's going to be a great conversation. Thanks for coming, Coach.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Coach, so my first questions for you is how you like playing soccer, professional indoor soccer, and you've been involved a lot in soccer. So what are some of the lessons, the main lessons that you bring from professional soccer to your life as a head coach now in college?
I mean, I think it would be hard for me to say what the lessons specifically of professional soccer are, but just in general, I think the lessons from soccer to me, and these are the same lessons that you can gain from lots of different sports and athletic pursuits, right? It's just kind of the value of hard work and what it means to be a good teammate and how to sort of be somebody that's willing to do the little bit extra when things are difficult and you know it's easy to do it when you're winning. It's difficult to do it when you're losing, and what do you do when the sort of the lights are off and it's a Tuesday and not a Saturday, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And how important those things are for when Saturday comes. And again, I think that's not specific to professional. That is in college, at the youth level. Yes, that's across the board. But the values and the importance of those kinds of things in sports, I think, are certainly, those are some of the best lessons that I have that I'll take away.
And especially in the professional world, like the pressure is a little bit bigger. You probably know that better than us. And how do you try to pass that to your players? That I know some people like want to have fun in college, they don't are used to that kind of pressure, but how can you try to pass them that they need to have this responsibility that it's going to be good for them, for their lives?
I mean, that's a really difficult thing to do, because I think it's, as a coach, to try and motivate somebody to be serious about what they're doing or to take that kind of focus on it. You know, I can't force you. And one of the things that we talk about in the coaching community is like the coach can't care more than the players do. Ultimately, the players have to have ownership over what happens on the field and wins and losses and what the culture is like in training and all of those kinds of things. And certainly as a coach, you can set a tone and, you know, you can punish somebody that's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, or reward somebody that's doing the extra or going over and above in terms of their, you know, their motivation level and what they bring to training on a regular basis. But I do think that's one of the great challenges of coaching. And again, even at the professional level, this is something that happens all the time, where there's a side distraction somewhere, or, you know, somebody is more concerned about maybe their own performance than what they can help bring to the team. So I think that's, again, these are challenges of coaching, and these are challenges of sports at the professional level, at the college level, at the high school level, you know, across the board.
Kind of creating that culture where everyone has the same goal. It's kind of hard, especially soccer, because how many players you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, ballpark 30 players.
Yes, so like you gotta convince 30 players like to have like the same goal. I think that's pretty hard, especially in your team. It's a very diverse group. I assume.
Yeah, especially like the level that we play as well. You know, if we talk about, I don't know, professional soccer, like in England, everyone wants to win, everyone wants to be the champion. But like here, I mean, not everyone wants to play, not everyone wants to win, of course, but it's just like I don't know, some people just have other priorities in their life. So
like this extra sacrifice, I think that's what you mean. Like it's hard to find someone that is willing to do it.
Especially here in our level. Coach, so my next question for you is, how you personally handle good and bad results. So like what going on in your mind, like not necessarily about soccer only, like but like if the team is not doing good, you know, what are you thinking? If the team is doing too good, are you thinking about something, you know?
Sure. I mean, again, I think one of the things that you gain with experience and over time, the more wins and losses that you experience, it's a little bit easier to understand how to move on to the next result. So I do think part of it is just me having enough experience with it to know that the loss that we experience today is just one loss today. The win that we experience today, that's just win today. There's another game that we have coming up, and so whatever you experience in the game that you just had, that doesn't give you a lead in the next game that you play, or you don't start 3 goals behind in the next game that you play. And sometimes I think that's a difficult lesson when you're 18, when you're 19, when you're 21. It takes more time and more experience, having lived through some of that, to have a little bit to get that level of, I guess, perspective. So certainly I think having gone through it enough, that's one of the things that I look at, that it's always about the next game. It's not about the last game. And again, I think one of the challenges as a coach is to help everybody else understand that. And one of the challenges that you go through is, and it's natural, right? When you have an important win, when you have a big win, when you play really, really well, everybody is on a good note. Everybody is optimistic. Everybody's excited. Everybody is happy, and that's a good thing. But it's easy to have that careen into losing focus. That hey, what are the things that we did in order to be successful in the last game? And we have to continue to do those things. And it's easy to lose a little bit that focus when you have success. On the flip side, I think sometimes it's easy to get discouraged when you don't have a good result, or when you have a poor string of results. And one of the great challenges, and again, I think one of the most successful things that you can do as a coach or as a teammate or as an athlete, is to be able to deal with that without losing your understanding of trying to do the things well that eventually are going to lead you to have success. And I think, soccer for me is an interesting sport, because it's very common that you can play really, really well and do a lot of the things that you're supposed to do in the game, and the other team has one good bounce and they score and you don't score and you lose 1-0. This happens a lot. And so I think one of the things that helps me is to remember, if the results aren't good, can we focus on the things that will lead to results, even if it's not working right now? Can we find a way to say, hey, listen, we lost, but we did some things really, really well in that loss, and so let's focus on that and let's build on that. Because if we're just discouraged that, hey, we lost, we suck, it's not good, there's nowhere to go from there. But if you can say, hey, we lost, but we possessed the ball really, really well, it was a very good team and we played in their half of the field, or we wanted to win the set piece battle in the game and we did that. Now you have some things that you can have confidence in. Hey, we're going to build on that. We're going to do the other things well next week, and now maybe the loss turns to a win.
Another, like we were talking about kind of general as a team, but how can you help the players to understand that? Like, if the player is not playing, especially in soccer, we have so many players and just 11 that plays, and I'm sure it's a challenge every day, because that guy's not playing, or he thinks he should be playing, he's not feeling good in the team, it's just so many different emotions. How do you try to handle those players? Like, is a different approach for everyone? Do you try to use the same approach for everyone? Like, what do you try look to do, so maybe you can help them as well get out of the bad situation?
Sure. I think it is a little bit of a different approach to different players.
Right.
And one of the things that I try and do the best that I can to do is make sure that, look, the reality is that we have 11 players on the field. Those players are happy to be on the field. If we have 30, that means we have 19 players that are not on the field, and they're unhappy that they're not on the field. And as a coach, I have to make the best decision that we want to put the players that are going to help the team be successful. We want to win the game. Having said that, I think one of the most important things any coach can do is to make sure that even if you're not in the team for the day, there's a value that I see in you as a human, as an individual, as a part of the team. And maybe that means that you're not going to play today, but you're going to play in the next game. Or maybe that means that you're not going to play today and it's going to be difficult for you to get into the game this month or this season. But hey, I'm still going to coach you. I'm still going to give you, this is what I can see for you to improve. I'm still going to give you value on the team and a voice in whatever the decisions are that happen, whether that be what we eat on the team trip or, you know, those kinds of things, because I think it's the first decision is a set decision. Nobody can change that. 11 players are happy to play. The other 19 players are not happy because they're not playing. But all the other things about how you get treated as a member of the team and a member of the school, the program, those kinds of things, that can go a long way towards dictating, hey, look, I'm pissed because I didn't get to play. But I still have respect and the coach still respects me. He doesn't treat me like because I'm not playing today that I don't matter, that I have no value, that I'm not an important part of the team. So for me, that's one of the biggest ways that you can do it as a coach, because again, you can't put 19 players on the field. You can put only 11. So you have to figure out other ways to make sure that the 19 that are not still have value to the team and still see the pathway for them to be part of that 11 at some point.
And something, especially as an athlete, like you gotta respect who is playing, like, because of course some situations could be that the coach is analyzing completely wrong, but like in like most of the situations, the guy that is playing is better than you, or it's more qualified at the moment. So it's kind of a respect for that. And also I feel that if you're not playing, like some people do, but a lot of people don't do, you know, you need to give more practice. And like by doing so, we're gonna help the team to evolve. Like for example, volleyball. Like I'm playing in a defensive position. If the guy that is a hitter, it's like 50%, I'm gonna practice 50% because I'm not getting the ball 100%. If he goes 100%, I can practice 100%, and that's how we evolve as a team. If the players in the bench don't do that, the starter team's never gonna be like in
nobody's going to reach their potential.
I was reading the book Relentless, and the guy's talking about when after Michael Jordan, I think like he left the Chicago Bulls, and then how they had that culture that everyone, like the team winning is good for everyone, you know, so like everyone is looking good. And when Michael Jordan left, everyone went to another team for like a huge amount of money. And then when they got there, they weren't that good, you know, because like what happened to this guy, you know, because it was just because Michael Jordan was making everyone looking good, you know. Of course he was pushing everyone, but at the same time, like even the guys that weren't playing, they were doing something for the team as well. So like if I'm not playing and our team's winning, I end up looking good too. So I think it's hard for athletes to understand that, I gotta be honest. But if they can create that mindset, I think it's the key for the team to grow, and then they can grow too, and then eventually play as well. Coach, since you came to Lords, the soccer program here got much better. What do you think are the main reasons for the program to get better every year?
I mean,
did you change something specific that you saw that need to be changed in the culture or the players? Or
I mean, I think better players is an easy one. And I do think, I mean, it's hard for me on the outside to say that we have better players now than before I was here, because I didn't see the players. I mean, we played against Lords at my other school, and there were good players, but generally I'm a believer that the difference that a coach can make is only an incremental one with the level of players that they have. The team that has the better players is generally going to be successful in a lot of ways. Having said that, I do think that one of the things that we have been able to change a little bit is the culture, and I think those two things are a little bit hand in hand, because I think part of the problem why maybe the level of players that Lourdes had wasn't quite as good before, was that we tend to lose players, or players didn't develop as much because the culture wasn't as good. They weren't happy, they weren't training in the off season, they weren't doing all the extra things that help you go from where you are as a freshman to where you become as a junior or as a senior.
Yeah.
So I think if there's anything that's changed, I think it's a little bit that. And again, this is me kind of regurgitating what other people have said, because I wasn't here, so I don't know all of these things.
Right.
But I can say, so for instance, we talk about like what we do in the spring. What it sounds like they did before was very, very little. The coach didn't really have practices. They went into the gym and played futsal when the players organized themselves, and they just do their own thing.
Yeah.
And me, I'm a big believer that it's consistency over time that creates improvement.
Yeah.
So you can't just play for 3 months in the fall and
Expect
then come back again the next fall. It's not going to work. Like, you can have really good players, you'll do okay, but ultimately you have to have that consistency that you're going to come back in January and February and March and continue to push yourselves and each other and improve during that time. I also feel like, I mean, whether this is culture or not, but I want players that want to play. And so if there's somebody that says, I just want to play for these 3 months, and when it's in February, I don't want to play soccer anymore, maybe that's not the player that I want, or that we want to have. We want the player that says, hey, there's a chance to play, I want to play.
But how do you know that? How can you figure that out?
I mean, you sort of don't, right? I mean, there's not a really good way to find that out. Right. But if we're doing it, then the players that embrace it and want to do it are gonna do it. And the players that don't embrace it and don't do it are gonna fall a little bit by the wayside. And over time, then that creates that this is the way it works. If you don't want to be a part of it, then you won't be a part of it. But everybody that's here is gonna be a part of it.
And I feel that's really hard, like especially if someone comes in and doesn't have this mindset. Like you have 30 players in the team, 25 want to play every time, and then 5 players are like, oh, okay, I don't want to do it. The others are kind of gonna go over him. Otherwise, they're gonna be like some sort of conflict because they want to win, they want to do more.
Yeah, another interesting fact. I think when the last coach got fired or he left, I don't know. Coach Ethan brought some coaches here to get interviewed by the players that we had
That
here.
was really cool.
And then I remember, I don't remember who was it, asked Coach Matt, like, oh, can we trust you? And then he said, no, you can't trust anyone. Is that right?
Essentially.
Yeah. So,
I mean,
go ahead.
I told him 2 things at that point. I said, I mean, I'm going to be new. Any other coach that you bring in is going to be new. So whatever relationship you had with your other coach, it's going to be a new, fresh relationship. Yeah. And me, I'm going to do whatever I think is best for the team and for the program and to be successful. So hopefully you're going to be somebody that I say, hey, he's serious, he works hard, he wants to be a part of it. That's great. If you're not that, then certainly I can't help you at that point. So you should trust me only as far as you're going to put in enough that I'm going to have your trust, you're going to have my trust.
Right.
But certainly every coach is going to come in and put the imprint on it however they want to do.
And I think that's a big thing, because you were being honest to the players, and I think that's what everyone wants to be, like all the athletes wants to hear what the coaches are thinking. But do you think there is a need to have some boundaries between players and coaches?
I mean, there is, and I'll address that, and I'll go back. The second part of what I told him, because he was like, none of us are your players. You're coming in new. But the second part for me is, at the point when I'm hired, or whoever the coaches that I hired, now you are my players, like right away.
Yeah.
And obviously it's going to take time to build a relationship, but if you're here and you're the team and I'm the coach that's hired, it's not like I'm going to bring 12 different guys that are my guys. You're the team right now, and if you can show that you're somebody that I can believe in and I can hold trust in, then you're the team.
Mm-hmm.
That's not gonna change that. The fact that I'm new, once I'm here, then you're the player and I'm the coach. We're here. We're a team at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So again, to the trusting of a new one coming in, at some level you cannot,
Mm-hmm.
but certainly as soon as I'm part of it, or as soon as a freshman signs to come to the school, or a first year player, you're part of the team now.
Right.
It's not like it's going to take 2 seasons or a year for me to figure out, like, we're now a team and we've got to figure out how to be the best team that we can be together.
For sure.
Ask me again, because I missed the second.
No, I think that was it.
You got it.
Yeah, I think that was it.
And you mentioned about trust, like in this conversation, like the first conversation with them, and I know many of the soccer players, and of course they disagree that they should be playing, they should not be playing, or the tactics of the team, but they all appreciate the relationship with you. Like all of them kind of like this relationship, the way you take care about them, like the one-on-one meetings that they are always open to talk with you. Do you think that's something that it's from your personality, or you actively try to do that to make them feel better?
I mean, it's a little bit of both. And again, to a little bit that point, when I came and interviewed, one of the things that we discussed when I interviewed, not with the players, but with the athletic director and with some of the other people at the school, was I said, look, I can tell you right now, I'm going to do everything I can to gain the trust of the players and to make the team be successful and to try and create a good culture that everybody is happy and wants to be here and wants to play. And sometimes it's going to cause conflict between me and you, the athletic director, me and the athletic director, or me and somebody from the administration, because when it comes to it, part of me gaining your trust and part of me doing what I talked about before, of being somebody that, whether you're the best player or you're the 30th player, that I'm going to give you respect and I'm going to show that you're valued, is that I'm going to be in your corner when it comes to issues between the school or between the financial aid or some of those kinds of things. I'm going to do the best that I can to fight for my players, because that's part of me showing their value to me. And there are some things that I can help and some things that I can't help. It's beyond my scope. And certainly, maybe there's going to be times where it's something where I have to say, you know what, I can't back you in that. If you cheated on a test, I can't fight for you. And there definitely have been times where there's a little bit of friction between me and someone else within the school, because I want to be an advocate for the players, for the team to be successful. But certainly, my personality tends to be pretty calm, and I like to get along with people, so that makes it a little bit easy. But it is also, I mean, one of my biggest goals in coaching is to try and do the best I can to make sure that everybody that plays has a good experience as part of the team, as playing. I have a lot of friends, or a lot of people I know in the soccer world or in the athletics world, that you talk to them now and they look back on their college experience and say, I loved soccer, but I didn't like the coach, and it was difficult, like I didn't love it. I wouldn't go back and do it again, or maybe I would, but I'd do it differently. And so one of the big challenges for me is to try and help as many players as I can have the opposite experience, to where they say, I loved it. If I could have played for 5 years, I would have played for 5. If I could play for 7, I would play for 7. And there's a lot of different things that go into that, but certainly trying to maintain a good relationship with everybody that's on the team is a big part of that. It's not always easy, and certainly you're going to have conflict. Again, we go back to the ones that are on the field, the ones that are not, so already there's friction. And I think wins and losses and how the team does certainly has a great effect on that. If you have a team that wins a lot, it's much easier for everybody to be happy, and some of those things that can cause conflict get papered over. On the flip side, when you have a team that's not successful or maybe losing games that they feel that they should win, it's easy for those cracks to become bigger. And again, that's where it becomes really crucial to try and maintain a little bit of calmness as a coach and trying to have that, what we talked about before, that we're going to focus on what we're doing well and try and get better rather than harp on the things that we're doing poorly and make everybody hate their life a little bit, because everybody is already unhappy when you're losing.
And especially, I think that, like, of course, like fighting for helping with financial aid, that's huge, like something that I'm pretty sure everyone values that. But also these small things, I saw you many times, like having lunch with your players, like at the CAF, or I don't know, those meetings, like one-on-one meetings that you actually talk with each person to understand how they are doing. I'm not sure like how you guys feel about that. For me, I think would be important. You guys think that changed, like in your team?
I mean, yeah, I think that's like everything for us, because we have a lot to say. We talk between us, the players, and that's our opportunity to tell them what we think. You know, of course, not everyone says everything that they wanted to say, but I feel like it's huge for us to express a little bit of our feelings there. Yeah, and I was gonna ask you, coach, like, is how important is for you guys? Is it something that you do to hear what the players have to say, just so you are aware of everything, or is it something that you are looking for something in those meetings specifically?
I mean, I'm looking for something in those meetings. I mean, there's a few different things, right? One is I just want to make sure that I have a chance to meet with everybody so that they can hear it's not a rumor from somebody else. It's between us, and we're a little bit on the same page. I also think there's a lot of value in, not everybody spends a lot of time thinking specifically like, what do I have to get better at? What does the coach think that I need to get better at? What are my areas that I really bring to the team? Sometimes it's easy to not spend time thinking about that. And when you sit down and for 15 minutes or a half an hour or whatever it is, you talk about that. One, maybe I'm going to make some suggestions that the player didn't think about, good and bad. And two, sometimes I just think it's helpful. I mean, some players really do that, but a lot of players I think maybe don't necessarily do that. So there's a huge value in just taking the time to say, I've got to get better at ball striking, or my 1v1 defending, or whatever it might be. I think it's good to take a little bit of time and try and pull some things that you can work on.
Yeah, very clear and coming from the coach. I have one question. What's your favorite soccer player? Like, what's the one that inspired you? You have one?
I mean, it would be hard for me. I can't say that there was like one player that I really was, followed that player or inspired. I can, like, so for instance, growing up, some of my first memories of like really watching and kind of getting really into it was the 1986 World Cup, and that was Maradona's World Cup. So Maradona for me, when I'm 9, 10, 11, like at the age when you have a big imprint.
Might need to cut this part from the podcast.
He was certainly a big time player at that time, yes? And not just that time. I mean, he's super talented. He did some incredible things, really, really good. I would say when I got just a little bit older to where I can kind of, maybe I'm analyzing a little bit more and watching for different things more, and because I played more in the back and in midfield, so like when I was, let's say like 16, 17, 18, some age like that, the best kind of team in the world was AC Milan. And for me, the player on that AC Milan team was Franco Baresi, who was a center back. Incredible player. I mean, so clean, like playing passes out of the back and tackle and blood and guts and those kinds of things. Like he brought so much to the game to help his team. So that was probably the next one that I would point to and say he was somebody that I always liked to watch. Those AC Milan teams and Arrigo Sacchi, the manager, and Baresi, and like some of those kinds of things were definitely a big part of, I guess, me watching the game and kind of getting a little bit more out of it. And then I'll give two more just to make you guys happy. I think for me, like the player that just to watch, like he's incredible to watch. You will never like coach somebody to be like him is Ronaldo phenomenal.
Yeah.
Injuries obviously hurt him a little bit,
For sure.
but I think for me at his best, I mean, he was almost unstoppable, so fast and strong and direct and just run past people and unbelievable feet. I mean, he had so many things.
Yeah.
So again, somebody that like, if I'm gonna be like, let me watch the highlights.
It's him.
He's a guy that that I'll watch.
Yeah, we need another one like him
Yeah.
for the end of the year.
Would you rather have in the team Cristiano or Messi?
Messi.
Messi?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
For me, I just think Messi gives so much more to the game than Ronaldo does.
Yeah, maybe.
And like Ronaldo has a ton of credit for me because he's done what he's done so long and he's able to kind of evolve. Like when he was younger, when he first started at Manchester United, he was like 1v1 and running past people and lots of tricks and a winger, yes? And I think as he's aged, I mean, one, he's kept himself in such good condition that he could continue to do that for a long time. But now he's not that at all, right? Now he's like very smart and he finds space in the box and he still has some really good athletic traits, but it's not running past people anymore. Now he's finding space and he's good in the air and he's like a finisher. So he totally changed sort of what he brings. So for that reason, I think, I mean, it's incredible what he's been able to do and be at the top level in multiple different ways for a long time. But again, I just think Messi was he's unplayable. His ability to beat people 1v1, nobody can, like he's so good with that and such a good passer. I mean, at his best, I just think he's just a little better than Ronaldo.
Yeah, when we talk about soccer-wise, it's hard. But like, what I like from Ronaldo is just like his personality, the mindset of just working harder and harder, and like just making sure he's the best. You know, nobody can outwork him. I think that's awesome. Another question about soccer that's my question that I wanted to know. When you are watching soccer, not necessarily like professional teams, but like teams for the conference, teams that we're gonna play against, like what are you looking for? Do you just watch and you can take something out of it, or are you looking for something specific? Is there like I don't know, patterns that you try to find? Do you look for something like that, or just watching?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a couple of different things, and I guess if you're asking, like, particularly with the teams in our conference or teams we're going to play or something like that, now you're talking about me trying to figure out, like, how we want to play against them, yes? So when it's a situation like that, I think there's a few things that I'm kind of looking for. One would be, like, do they have any special players that have some qualities that we need to be careful about, right? Like they have a forward that's kind of their focal point. Where does he play on the field? How do we attack against that? I think a little bit of formation pieces, and I don't necessarily look crazy at that, but for instance, do they play with 3 at the back or 4 at the back? Because that's going to change a little bit how we're trying to approach them. And I'll use as an example, when we played in the last year, Lawrence Tech, they're a 4-3-3 team for 15 years. I know their coach very well, and they played back to when I was at McEnroe for a long time, always 4-3-3. And in the season, we talked a couple of times, and they changed a little bit so you can't watch any of their games. They put like a thing so you can't stream them. You have to pay money and do a bunch of things. And a couple of times when we had conversations, he mentioned something about like us not being able to watch them stream. And I thought to myself, I think they changed a little bit what they do. And sure enough, when we got into the game against them, they played with like a kind of a 3-4-3 essentially. A lot like what Chelsea does now. Their wingers kind of tuck in, so you could call 3-6-1. But the point is, they play with three at the back and wing backs. Completely different than what they've done for forever prior to that. And in the first half of that game, I think they really control a lot the game. They score on free kicks, so that's a separate thing. But they ran the game because how we were going to press them, they just changed it up and they made it difficult for us. The second half, we changed because we recognized what they're doing and we're able to change how we set up our front players. And it was much more of our game in the second half. You can be reasons for that because they had a lead and all other, but for me, a big part of it was we were able to change and take away what they were doing. So how they set up in back and how they play out of the back for any team is one of the first things that I look for, because that dictates a little bit for me. And one of the things that I, as a coach, tactically kind of focus on is how do we press their back line? Like, how does that look? And I mean, you can attest, we spend a little bit of time on that. Which angle are we going to press their center backs? How are we going to direct the ball? Where does that look in our front half? So that's one of the things that I will always kind of look for. And then the reverse a little bit as well. How do they set up their front players? So do they have three players and they play very wide across? Do they play with only a front two and two central strikers? Because again, that's going to change a little bit what we're going to do, how we play in the back. I think those two areas tactically are two of the main ones. And then a little bit of, do they like to press and play kind of on the front foot, or do they
hold back,
drop deep and try to counterattack?
Cool. For me, it's a master class right now.
Too
much information that I don't even see when I'm watching
Right.
games.
But that's something that like I need to get better on, because like I'm used to watch soccer as a fan, as a passive person, you know, just trying to just go and try to score, you know. But that's not how it works, and I think we can learn so much from that. Coach, my last question for you. During the season, I saw you never getting too excited and never getting too sad about results, about everything that happened in our season. Why is that? Is this we talked about it a little bit already, but is it something that you always had? Is it something that you worked on and you tried really hard to not show a lot, or is it something that you just had?
I mean, a little bit. It is something that I sort of always had. I'll say that. And I can, like, my dad is very kind of calm. So some of it is just my genetic makeup a little bit. But I mean, it's funny because I can remember a story from when I was like maybe a 12 or 13 years old. I was young and I was playing. And it's a little different when you're coaching than when you're playing. So I'm fairly calm, but I'm gonna, like lots of players, I'm gonna have my moments when I get upset about something in the field, and with calmness is different from not wanting to win and not being competitive.
Right, of course.
But going back to the story, so when I was 12 or 13 years old, I think I was starting to like yell at the referee, and maybe it's a bad foul, and start to I was getting too heated. And I can remember my dad sat me down, and at this point we were like in the early 80s. There was a tennis player named John McEnroe. I don't know if you would know the name. He was an American, like one of the best players, great tennis player, but he was famous because he had tantrums and he yelled at the umpire, and one time he smashed all the things on his bench, the water and whatever else, and break a racket. And so he was kind of known for he's a great talented player, but he can't control himself at all. He just snaps and then he gets kicked out, all sorts of things. So my dad sat down and said, you're not going to beat John McEnroe of soccer. We can't have this. So if you continue, if you're going to yell at the referee like this, if you're going to fight, if you're going to do all these things, you're not going to play anymore. I'm not going to sign you up. I won't bring you to practice. This is it. Because I'm getting embarrassed to watch you out there. This is not okay. It's not acceptable. And not that didn't change my whole demeanor. Certainly, there's a lot of parts of character that one thing is not gonna change it. But that's a moment where I still remember now, And certainly I can say like it really did change a little bit my demeanor in the game, because I love to play. Like the idea that I'm not going to play anymore, like I got to come up with something. I got to change a little bit, because that's not the acceptable. Like I can't have that happen. So certainly that conversation did change a little bit in my approach. I had to come up with some ways, like when the bad call happens, I can't get up and scream. I have to deal with it. I have to just go back and get in the wall, or whatever, go back and play defense and do my thing. I get fouled, I can't lay around and bitch about it. I gotta get back up and run back. You just gotta continue. You can't dwell on those things. So I think that helped a little bit, just get my attention at an age where I think sometimes it's easy to go in different directions a little bit. Like I was starting to get old enough to kind of have my own personality in the game, but it's just sort of forming, right? So I think if he didn't say anything, probably it continues to go a little bit the way that it was going. And the fact that we had that sort of brought me back, that I want to play. I don't need to fight. I want to play.
I remember when we were in that camp, and Diego got really mad at something that happened, and I remember he was breathing on the sideline, trying to calm him down, and that was really cool actually, because I never saw anyone doing that, and he actually got calmer, and he went there and he started playing better than he was playing, so that was really cool. And I mean, it just makes a lot of sense what you said, because it's hard to control our emotions when we're playing, but like the Stoics, they say that all the time, just getting upset, getting mad about it won't change it, so you just gotta get back and do it again and again. And it sounds simple, it's not that simple, but
it's not the situation itself, it's how we react to that.
Sure.
Just like that.
Well, and certainly like there's a value if you can redirect a little bit, right? If you get upset about something and you're like, come on, let's go. That's okay.
That's a huge quality that just a few people have. But that's,
Yes. So, and that's a great thing. Like you want to have that little bit of anger and that little bit of passion, and that is a good thing. But
if you lose,
there's a line, right? If you start to cross over that line, then it becomes a bad thing quickly.
Tim Grover, the guy that used to train Michael Jordan, Kobe, he talks a lot about that, because he always says, you're gonna get mad, you're gonna get angry, but you gotta know how to use that towards the game, how to deal with that. So that's powerful.
Our last question.
Our last question that we always ask our guest speakers: how you measure success, coach?
It's a great question, and again, for me, I think the best measure of success is if you feel like that team or that person or whatever it is, you got the most out of what you have for that season, or that career, or whatever the time frame. So, and I mean, I've heard stories told, but I'll bring one up myself. I had a season where I coached at my old school, where I think we were about 500. At the end of the year, it was like we won 8 games and lost 9 and tied 1 or something like that. But for me, I think it was an incredibly successful season, because we weren't a super talented team. We were okay, we weren't great. And we started the season, maybe we lost our first 5-6 games. So very easy at that point for everything to go sideways, and people want to quit, and fighting and all those kinds of things. And we did have a moment, 5th or 6th game, where we had to get in an argument on the field, and we took them off the field, and then they got in an argument on the bench, like almost a fight. We had to carry them, hold them back from each other so that they didn't fight on the bench during the middle of a game. The game's going on. We had a meeting, the players were suspended, but then we also had a meeting with the team, not those two, maybe they were, anyways, and just sort of said, hey, look, we're doing a lot of good things. We have to stay with it, keep working, stay positive. We played some good, we had a difficult schedule, and we've been close. And I think the game after that fight happened, we won a difficult game, and it really turned the whole season around. And we ended up again. I think we were close to being 500, but for me it was a pretty successful season because we had some results that didn't go our way early, but we were able to keep things together, and everybody continued to fight for each other. And in the end, like again, because we lost our first 6 or something like that, now the second half of the season, once we started to win, we did really, really well. You know, our first half we were whatever we were, 2-6, and the second half was like 7-1 or something, because everybody sort of understood that we were doing a lot of good things, that we could do better, and if we continued, we would. And again, I look at that and say that was a successful season because it could have gone really bad. We had some breaks that go the wrong way against us, but we didn't let that change us. We kept fighting for each other, and we were able to turn it around. And I mean, I'll use another one. So my first year at that school, it's a really small school, and it's in the middle of the city of Detroit, which it's like the favela. Not a great area, you know, where we practice. There's like a house with drugs, and one guy we saw like shooting a gun next to our practice, like it was a rough. So difficult place to like recruit people to come to. And we're the first year, so everybody is new. We have some players that like weren't very good, didn't know what they're doing. We had some that were pretty talented, but they were still young. So again, we lost some games, 6-0, 7-0, 8-0, like that. I think the end of the year, maybe we had won like 3 games. We were like 3 wins and 1 tie and 14 loss, something like that. You know, we lost most of the games. But I look back at that as a very successful season for this reason, because the same thing, it would be easy for the ones that were pretty talented to get discouraged and say, I can't be here, I'm leaving or whatever. But for the most part, and again, my goal going into it was, I know we're not going to be very good, but if we can have 4 or 5 pretty good players that are competitive, if they can stay and buy in, then the next year we do that again. Now we have enough to put a team that's pretty competitive, and it can go in a good direction. And that's sort of what happened. The ones that came said, you know what, we're just freshmen. It's going to take a little bit of time. We understand that. We're going to get better. And so we did. And so, you know, on the 18th game, the attitude was as good or better than it was in the first game. Everybody was still working hard. Everybody is still fighting for each other. Like I think that we did as well as we possibly could do with the team that we had. Like our ceiling as a team was to win 3 or 4 games, and we won 3 or 4 games. But we were excited to win those, and everybody was able to say, you know what, we have some pretty good players, and if we get a couple more pretty good players, then we can build and we can go, and we were able to. So again, for me, that was success, even though the record was terrible.
It's kind of, I don't know if I could put it in words, but like in a sentence, but like 2 things that he mentioned in his stories is kind of overcoming something hard, and then kind of valuing the process more than the results.
Sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sure.
I mean, every little progress that you have, it's a win that you should count always. Well, coach, thanks so much for being here. I'm sure people will like to hear that, and it's gonna be helpful for
Your teammates are gonna.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they will. So yeah, thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem.